And we're right back to making our Chibi Cop. Last time we got our basic shapes blocked in and started rounding out the edges to make it less blocky. Here we're continuing to work on that left arm. To explain a little bit more, last time we made a basic shape and then added a subdivision modifier to it. Then I go back in, move stuff around, add some extra vertices and lines and such just to make sure it looks right. Doing the same thing here, I've added the subdivision. Now I'm going to kind of play around with adding some extra lines, faces, such, to see if I can make it look right when it's got that rounded edge. Now I'm going to play around with how to make this hand. Again, I start out real basic, add some fingers, and then just round it out and see if I can make it look more like a hand. Now that I got that basic shape, I am actually just going to copy it and see if I can make a thumb from the same shape and then change it a bit. Now I've decided that I want to work on the torso again. Specifically, it's the body armor, so I'm going to make this neck hole. Because body armor doesn't go all the way to your neck, like a t-shirt doesn't. And since there's a neck hole, we then need a neck. So I'm going to make a simple neck as well. Now I've got some weird edges on these shoulder pads, so I'm going to try and fix that. They got kind of wonky with the subdivision. Looking back on this, I wonder if I should have made this 3 separate pieces. Probably would have been a lot easier and not quite as messy. As an aside, you might notice that I'm only working half of these parts because I have this cool add-on for Blender called like Auto Mirror. Basically, you make your original piece and then you push this Auto Mirror button and it cuts it in half and automatically applies the mirror modifier. It saves a couple steps and then you don't have to make everything twice. So now I'm gonna add that like nameplate where it says SWAT in my drawing. Figured this would be the easiest way to do it. Just kind of make a little block through it. I'll come back and finish it later. At this point I'm going to deviate a little bit from my drawing. I decided that I kind of wanted some like magazine pouches on the front. I think that's more common on actual SWAT officers than whatever plates I had. Here I've decided to go back to the hand, try and make it a little bit more detailed, give it some actual fingers. You could probably do this separately, but this is how I did it. It worked for this, I guess. And like I said before, once you work on something, then you notice something else, so you have to make little adjustments. So like here, after I do the work on the hand, then I kind of readjust where the wrist is just to make sure it's still lining up correctly. Then I move farther down the body, so now we're back to the legs. This is one of those where I'd probably change how I did it in the future. I probably wouldn't use a sphere again. It made it really difficult to connect. There were a lot of like overlaps and it was really messy looking. So my goal here is I know I'm going to use the subdivision modifier to smooth it all out. And if you have those like edges, it's going to create weird things. So I'm trying to kind of smooth it all out and make some better shapes. This is another one of those spots where knowing the anatomy would be helpful. I know some basics again, but I just kind of go with what looks right and correct. You could probably use some reference, but since this is such an oddly stylized character, I decided it would be okay without being too realistic. So now I've put that subdivision modifier on there, and this is why I was saying I would probably do the knees differently next time, because there's just a lot of stuff to work with and it's kind of messy. If that knee had just been a cube rather than a sphere, I think it would have been a lot easier. There wouldn't have been all this extra moving points around and stuff. Same thing with the hips. I'm not sure if the sphere is that helpful. Might have been better as just a cube, but you live and learn. Since it's a sphere and I can't get to sit right, I tried to sculpt it a bit. Not very good at sculpting, but I mean, that's something to try, I guess. And it didn't help a whole lot, but it sort of worked. And here we're back to why I think a cube should have been used, because now I have to like match up all these points and it's just a mess. So I very briefly sculpted this head at the beginning, but it's kind of fat, so I decided to go back and make it a little less plump. Move some stuff around. Since this one has like this mask on, it should be easier, you would think, to create the face, because you're not actually showing all the details. But I just kind of went around trying to make it look good. Now I'm going to apply that subdivision to the legs, and this is where you get those wrinkles and stuff because the connections aren't very good. If it was a cube, it probably would have lined up better. Well, cube that you changed. With some sculpting, I'm able to fix a bit of it. I mean, they look much better than they originally did, so that's good. When I added that subdivision, it made the legs really thin, so I decided to kind of plump them back up. Then use some more sculpting to try and fix that knee. It does look better once you start smoothing it out. After that, I put all the arm pieces into one, and then start smoothing it again with the sculpting. In my eyes, this part, it starts getting, looking pretty good, to be honest. I haven't done much sculpting, so it just, working on this, it felt good and it turned out alright, so. So about here I decided that, well, he probably needs some gloves. So I started making the edge of the glove using the sculpting, because I was feeling good about it. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but I feel like it worked in this situation. After playing around with the gloves for a bit, I decided that he needs like the cuff of a shirt or something, and I'm not exactly sure why I did it this way, but I thought that putting a cube in there and kind of mashing it together would be the best way to do it, and I don't know. Again, it turns out alright, but I don't know why I did it that way, and I don't know if I'd do it that way again. Here I'm sculpting like a little cuff button, and in the future I probably wouldn't do it this way. I'd probably just go get a cylinder. That'd be easier. At this point I've done a lot of work to this arm, so I kind of needed a break, so it's a good stopping point. Regroup after some rest and figure out where to go next. So we're slowly starting to add a lot more details, and it's coming along. Part 3 should be up already, so go check that out. If you'd like to see more stuff like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.